All right, good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us for today's webinar on the IAAO Code of Ethics, presented by the 2022 IAAO President, L. Wade Patterson, and former IAAO President and current Chair of the Ethics Committee, Bruce Woodzell. Again, my name is Daniel Fox, IAAO's Manager of Community Engagement. I'm joined today by Sarah Noakes, IAAO's Manager of Learning Technology, who will be assisting with any technological issues you may encounter. Before we get started, I'd like to go over a few items about how to participate in today's event. To ensure that we have an optimal learning environment, all attendees have been muted upon entry. You can reach out to Sarah with any technical questions by using the Q&A function of Zoom. For today's webinar, we will not be answering any questions live. However, if you have any follow-up questions regarding IAAO ethics or the presentation, you can send them in following today's webinar to our Executive Director, Deborah McGuire. More details on that process will be presented shortly. The webinar will review the work by the committee, outside legal counsel, and IAAO and the impact on members. With all that said, let's go ahead and pass it over to our presenters. Take it away, gentlemen.
Good morning. Welcome to our webinar on IAAO Code of Ethics. I'm Wade Patterson, IAAO President.
And I'm Bruce Woodzell, Chair of the IAAO Ethics Committee for 2022.
Over the past few years, IAAO, through its Ethics Committee, has updated and streamlined the association's Code of Ethics. This morning, we will review and discuss how we can impact you as a member. This is a very important and sometimes sensitive topic to discuss, but there should be a clear and concise set of guidelines for such an important part of our association and profession. A complaint must rise to the level of an ethics violation.
A couple of years ago, in an article on ethics in the IAAO magazine, Fair and Equitable, Kevin Prine noted that ethics can easily be overlooked, but underneath every layer of what the assessment profession entails, ethics can be found and learned from. IAAO established a code of ethics many years ago and has updated it as needed. In 2021, the Ethics Committee updated parts of the code to coordinate with the revised IAAO strategic plan, clarifying existing language and outlining compliance with appropriate professional standards.
In the summer of 2021, work started on the new enforcement section, developed by the Ethics Committee and reviewed by Governance Committee and IAAO Board of Directors. The new enforcement section outlines the process to file a complaint, the alleged violation evaluation process, potential sanctions, publication of sanctions, and the appeals and reinstatement process.
One of the reasons we added the enforcement section to the code was to modify the code to include enforceable components and to more clearly outline on how we handle potential violations.
Members turn to an association for many reasons, from professional development and certification to industry information and networking. But what makes them renew their membership year after year? Several years ago, an association organization conducted a member engagement and loyalty survey and found that Code of Ethics ranked as one of the top benefits that drive member retention. Why? Because it provides a common set of rules and standards for all in the profession to adhere to. It defines the best practices for a profession. It provides a basis to meet compliance requirements for the profession. It provides a seal of approval that those outside the profession can look for when using or selecting our services. It helps as a watchdog for the profession. Remember, this study was not conducted for the IAAO. It was a study of associations, but it definitely seems to represent our membership.
We believe the IAAO Code of Ethics meets these goals. Our code contains a preamble, IAAO core values, 5 ethical canons, and accompanying ethical rules under each canon. In the preamble to the code, the document states members and certificates, as well as non-members of IAAO involved in IAAO activities, should conduct themselves in a professional manner that reflects favorably upon themselves, the organization, the appraisal profession, and the property tax system, and should avoid any action that could discredit themselves or these entities. They should exhibit appropriate professional conduct in their interactions with all individuals whom they encounter in connection with their professional roles, including colleagues, employees, clients, and owners of property subject to assessment.
The preamble also notes that the Code of Ethics and Standards of Professional Conduct establishes the minimum standards of conduct which all IAAO members must adhere. We must do more, however, than simply obey the rules. Public trust in our performance is the foundation of our credibility. We must therefore embrace the highest ethical principles and the pursuit of excellence. Accountability, transparency, and inclusivity and responsiveness must be integral to our behavior. I believe as a public servant, if we do not have the public trust, we have nothing.
Preamble states the general ethical goals and are followed by the canons, which are professional duties, truthfulness, conflict of interest, support of IAAO, compliance with appropriate professional practice standards. The canons describe in an overall goal of how we want our members to conduct themselves, such as in canon number 1, professional duties. Members shall conduct their professional duties and any activities as a member of IAAO in a manner that reflects credit upon themselves, their profession, and the association. While general in nature, the accompanying ethical rules outline specific measurable activities, such as in Ethical Rule 1-3. Members shall follow local laws and regulations relating to the appraisal, assessment, and taxation of property within their jurisdictions.
Canon 2, truthfulness, states members shall not make false or misleading statements, written or oral, in the course of performing their professional duties. Canon 3, conflict of interest, states members shall not engage in any activities in which they have or may reasonably be considered by the public as having a conflict of interest. Canon 4, support of IAAO, states members shall abide by and support in the provisions of IAAO governing documents, rules, and policies. Canon 5, compliance with appropriate professional practice standards, states members shall comply with the applicable standards of practice in their jurisdiction.
I believe our members work to uphold the principles in the Code of Ethics. As a result, the association receives very few complaints, which are handled by the Ethics Committee. While we had procedures in place, we knew we needed to document our procedures better. As part of efforts to bring our governing documents up to date, several years ago, we began by updating our governing documents, bylaws, and procedural rules. Those changes, along with a new strategic plan approved in May 2021, moved us to review and update the Code of Ethics in 2021 and in 2022. The new enforcement section was developed. The new enforcement section outlines the process to file a complaint, the alleged violation evaluation process, potential sanctions, publication of sanctions, and the appeals and reinstatement process.
A lot of work was put in to develop the enforcement section and the changes to the code. The members of the Ethics Committee under Chair Bruce Woodzell in 2022 and Chair Stephen Pelfrey in 2021 deserve a lot of credit and thanks for their hard work. However, they did not work in a vacuum. To assist with legal questions, we utilized our counsel in Kansas City and a major law firm in Washington, D.C., which has worked with a number of other associations on ethics-related matters and is one of the most renowned law firms on ethics-related issues. Changes were submitted to the board for review and then exposed to the membership for 30 days prior to final board approval. The board recently approved the enforcement section, and it's now part of the Code of Ethics. The document, along with a new complaint form, is available on the IAAO website under the About and Governing Documents section.
While we made a number of changes to the code to make it more useful, we were not looking to add a lot of new rules for the members to follow. Many times it was just to clarify the document or bring the association in line with our membership, which is becoming more international. For instance, Ethical Rule 5-1 was clarified to say that members in the United States shall observe the requirements of the Uniform Standards of Professional Appraisal Practice, and members residing outside the United States shall follow appraisal standards that govern appraisers within their jurisdiction. In another instance, under Ethical Rule 2-2, the statement was revised as follows. Members shall not claim or imply that they have specific qualifications unless in fact they have such qualifications. Previously, it stated that it is unethical to claim an IAAO professional designation unless authorized, whether the claim is verbal or written, or to clarify qualifications.
The second part of our efforts were the development of the previously mentioned new enforcement section, which outlines the following processes: filing a complaint, evaluating potential violations, sanctions, appeals, reinstatement, deliberations, publication and reporting, and responsibility for notifying IAAO of contact information.
We'll spend some time on the main areas, covering the general nature of each area, but suggest you refer to the document for the complete rules. The process starts with complaints officially filed at IAAO headquarters within 1 year of the alleged violation, using the new Code of Ethics complaint form. The complaint form is available to download from the website, and it requests information on what the complaint refers to, a statement of the facts, and requires a signature from a notary public.
Complaints are submitted to the IAAO and a preliminary review is conducted. And if the allegation presents evidence of a violation of the Code of Ethics, the Ethics Committee is convened for further review. Respondents, the accused, have 30 days to respond to the allegations and may request a virtual hearing before the Ethics Committee. Following the proceedings, notice will be provided to the complainant and the respondent. And if a disciplinary sanction is imposed, the notice will be included in an explanation. The sanctions sections outline the various actions IAAO could take, and potential sanctions are assignment of remedial education, private reprimand or warning, public letter of censure, removal from IAAO volunteer positions, restrictions on privileges and rights as a member, including holding leadership or committee roles, suspension or expulsion from participating in IAAO events or activities, suspension or revocation of IAAO instructor credentials, denial or non-renewal of professional designations, suspension or revocation of professional designations, suspension or expulsion from membership, or other corrective or disciplinary actions as determined at an IAAO's discretion. Respondents may appeal an adverse decision other than assignment of remedial education or private reprimand and warning. If an individual has been expelled from membership and has had their professional designation revoked, reinstatement may be reconsidered. The IAAO Ethics Committee determines whether the reinstatement shall be granted, and the decisions of the IAAO Ethics Committee may be appealed to the IAAO Board of Directors.
IAAO may report sanctions other than assignment of remedial education or a private reprimand and warning, and the underlying facts of the violation to interested parties, and may publish the information on IAAO's website. To ensure that IAAO can contact individuals, IAAO members are solely responsible for ensuring that their IAAO account, including their current mailing and emailing addresses, are accurate.
In addition, to ensure you receive information from IAAO, make sure you notify IAAO of any address changes. You can go online and easily make your updates. I hope you've enjoyed the webinar. We've covered the basics of the changes, but to provide additional details, the IAAO Conference Committee has scheduled a session on ethics at the conference in Boston, Tuesday, August 30th, starting at 1:30, and I hope you will attend. So far, 592 people have already registered for the annual conference, and with Boston being a popular destination, we're expecting a bigger attendance this year.
This has been a lot to cover. We've received a few questions prior to the webinar that we wanted to address. Here's a question. Why is the executive director the contact for complaints?
It's best practices according to our legal counsel. We need one authorized individual to handle and track submissions. Another question. When did the changes go into effect?
The enforcement section, the complaint form, the procedural rules, and the ethics committee manual were approved by the board of directors on May 26th and went into effect on June 1st, following the Memorial Day holiday. How are complaints against board members handled?
Complaints would be handled in exactly the same manner, but if there's an appeal to the board, then that board member would not participate. Next question. How long are complaints on ethics committee decisions retained?
Under the new policy, into perpetuity. Are complaints viewable?
Only those involved in the process may view the complaints outside of any findings that are published.
Thank you for attending. I encourage each of you to take some time and review all of the new materials related to the Code of Ethics and Standards of Professional Conduct. Hope to see you in Boston.
A huge thank you to all of you who joined the webinar today. We appreciate your attention to such a vital part of what makes IAAO the best assessment association it can be. We owe a big thank you to the IAAO Ethics Committee for their ongoing work on the updates you heard today. While we did not handle live Q&A during the webinar, we do encourage any questions you have to be sent in for us to address. Feel free to send those to our Executive Director, Deborah McGuire. Her contact information can be found on our website at IAAO.org, and then you'll find it under About and Team, and that's IAAO.org under About and Team. Keep an eye out for the announcement tomorrow on the recording of this webinar. IAAO also has a great list of upcoming webinars, so head on over to IAAO.org/webinars for more information on those programs, including the June 29th webinar on property tax assessment of solar farms in Indiana, taking place at noon Central. Again, thank you for joining us today. And from everyone here at IAAO, have a great rest of your week.